Hello, and welcome to the Divine Darkness podcast, where we are going to walk towards the light together, bringing in more awareness, opening our abilities, and discussing all different realms of spirituality. Take a seat, open your heart, and get ready for this energetic shift to happen. Hello, and welcome to the podcast today, where we're going to talk about spirit guides, synchronicities, and the fun deja vu and all the experiences that connect us to the cosmic, galactic, spiritual team, our loved ones, and really kind of finding the moments that we need for clarity and confirmation and how to get there. And moments of spirit synchronicities that we might have not even noticed at our younger life that have really shown us now. We can look back and see in those moments of, oh, wow, that was a message, or, oh, wow, because I feel like for me too, that kind of happens. I don't necessarily see it when I was younger right away until I look back and say, there was moments that I was definitely guided, just needed to awaken and snap out of it. So, did you
Do you
have
want to
any?
do you want to share one of those incidences from when you were younger?
Yeah, so for me, when I was younger, I never realized that I was being guided because I lost my faith. I lost everything. I was really from probably about 12 to like 25. I just was in this dissociation, kind of just no faith, no driven, no nothing, just out of body, my whole existence, I feel dissociated. And I look back now and I'm like, there's moments where this can go into near life death experiences, which I've never experienced one, but this can go also play a part when you look back of moments of aha moments of synchronicities or a connection with your guides coming to rescue you. But I look back and I'm like, what I experienced, what I put myself through, situations, what I did in my body, everything. I know that I should not be alive if I didn't have my guides protecting me and my faith. And I feel strongly by that because I do feel spirit puts us in these darkness moments where I needed those experiences to wake up, to literally snap the fuck out of it, because that's what it took. And I think in those moments we feel alone. In those moments we feel isolated and lost, but that's not true. It's just that's what spirit wants us to experience. And I do find way more clarity looking back at that and saying, there was moments, no, I was guided, I just didn't know. And I was protected, I just didn't realize. And so I knew that when that snapped out of it and I awakened and I grew closer to my faith and source and my mediumship, intuition, all that, I realized, wow, now it's even more expansive and more connected because I'm willing to see it. I'm willing to bring it in and I'm more aware and receptive and asking. So I feel they're just knocking on our door our whole life until we say, we're ready. Here's the door. Here's the key. You can open it now. Um, and so for me, that is what I mean by when I look back and not seeing it for what it is. And now it's like this timeline that I can take a look back and see like those moments of clarity and thanking my guides in those moments too for that protection.
For sure. I remember a time in my early 20s, I was kind of going through some things and I was just like, behaving recklessly and doing things I shouldn't. And I remember one night I had been out with friends drinking and I wasn't like drunk, but I was pretty sure I had drank too much to be driving. But I said, you know what, it's okay. I'm literally like 5 minutes away from my house. And I had my friend drive in front of me. And I was like, I'm gonna follow you just to be safe. And or actually she was behind me, sorry. And so we're going home and we get onto the main road and I see red and blue lights start flashing. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. I'm gonna get pulled over and get it jail ticket. I don't even know. And so I'm driving and I pull over and my friend pulls over too. And the cop stops behind my friend who didn't drink that night, wasn't drinking anything. And I kind of start going forward and they don't follow me. They stay behind my friend. And I like, jump into the nearest neighborhood, get off the main road, get back to my house. And I was like, I got home and I parked my car and I was like, that was my one and only warning from Spirit. I knew immediately. I was like, that's it. If I ever do that again, I'm gonna be in massive trouble. And that kind of like woke me up from like this spiral I had been in for like a while of just being reckless and just doing dumb stuff. And that kind of like shook me real hard. And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's moments of that, but the fact that you were aware of it, the fact that you brought that to your attention says a lot of how quickly you are going to receive more, right? Because I didn't start necessarily seeing them until I was more aware.
I've always been
So,
aware. I just have an issue of not listening a lot of the times. Like they
mm,
definitely gave me warnings before that when I was doing dumb stuff. Didn't listen, but that was like the threat of getting in so much trouble that like I would go to prison. I was like, okay, okay, I'm
yeah.
done.
Yeah, sometimes it takes that for sure. I think, yeah, I always think that we're always divinely guided. I do feel that it brings us into that snapping out of it moment and those synchronicities. And then, of course, when you start seeing those synchronicities, you realize that your intuition is open, and then those frequencies of that feeling of appreciation or feeling of, thanking your guides is so important. That's one thing that I do always talk about is being in that state of frequency of gratitude and always acknowledging your guides, because it's the connection for sure that is going to withhold that stronger bond, that stronger belief system. And I do feel that is so beneficial. So always being in that moment of those moments of gratitude to connect, I think for anyone that's listening that doesn't necessarily feel or know or see their guide, it's like those moments of just frequency of raising it in your heart center of gratitude and bringing in more appreciation of just anything and knowing that they're there, even if you might not see them yet. One thing too that will help quickly is if you are connecting and you're struggling with seeing or feeling or just kind of like stuck, the color, naming or seeing a color and coordinating them with a color is really beneficial. And I find that if people aren't clairvoyant, you can just use like the color green or whatever comes to you naturally. And when you see that color, you'll start feeling the emotion to it. And it goes from there when you open your abilities and when you open your connection. So, um, or or you just might have that clairsentient and you just use that feeling of knowing your guides are there, your guides are with you. So those are just some things that you can use when you connect with your guides, of course, your intuition and feeling, seeing, sensing, knowing. But the synchronicities of seeing are the true aha, like, oh my, like what is happening? This is real. And a lot of people need that. A lot of people that are still in the logic mind, people that are still living in the just slowly awakening 4D kind of awakening of that need to visually see, meaning the outside of like, so just for an example, um, I was in a meditation and I was asking, it was a loved one passed, and it was not long after I did this meditation, and I was in a group setting, and I'm like, asking my guides, the loved one came forward, he comes forward, and I'm like, okay, at the end of my meditation, I'm like, is this real? Right? That's something that we talk about a lot, because is this real? A lot of the times when you're in hypnosis or a deep meditative state, you want to make sure, is this real? And sometimes you do go back into that, and that's okay. Because I believe it, but sometimes I want more. You get a sign, you're like, I want more. I want a sign, I get another
A
sign.
signier
A
sign.
signier sign, exactly. And so he came forward and I said, okay, if this is real, show me a sign. And he's in space, mind you, and all of a sudden he's got his white t-shirt on, his jeans, very very like just standard how we would normally dress, and then he has Van sneakers on, and I'm like, that's random because I don't know anyone that wears Van sneakers. Like, I don't know. So a week goes by and I'm like, okay, it wasn't real. I haven't seen anything to do with that. I trust you, but I mean, and he was usually really quick with his signs. And it was Christmas time. We were going to a Christmas party, and it's a dressier, right? Dressy. You're going to go there dressy. Well, the two dudes that came in that sat at our table at this work party that was dressy, both of them had Van sneakers on with a dress shirt. And I'm like, I started laughing, and they're like, what's so funny? I'm like, it's not you. I'm just having a
But I
moment.
get it.
I'm just thanking my guides internally, laughing with them. So that was that was like the moment of just it's comical too, right? And it can be so funny and it can be so subtle and so simple, but yet so profound and so deeply internally like rewarding. Um, so that was a funny one, actually. I feel like I have so many synchronicities and
I
stories.
have so many. Probably one of my favorites was I was starting to really practice connecting with my grandmother, like asking for signs, getting more patient, and I walk a lot and I like bird feathers. So when she first crossed over, she sent me a bunch of cardinals. So I was like, I want to see a cardinal feather on my path. I want to see a blue jay feather on my path. I want to see a mockingbird feather on my path. Ask for all three of those. And I'm walking, and 30 minutes later, I see a cardinal feather. Pick it up. 5 minutes later, blue jay feather, pick it up. 5 minutes later, a mockingbird feather, pick it up. And I've never experienced anything like that ever again. Like it was like boom, 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 all three of them, which is crazy. Like you
That's
don't find
beautiful.
that many feathers like that all in a row. It was
Yeah.
insane. And it was
No,
so much. It was probably my most favorite moment ever. I was like, okay, mammal, you were like, you're on it. Like it
I
is
love
so
that.
connected.
I love that. And it's those little moments too where, you just, it grounds you. It really does. It grounds you into this perspective of, I know the unseen. I trust the unseen and that, there is life after here. And it's like a lot of people need that tangible thing to trust and to believe that there is a veil, and that there's realms and dimensions. And this is just this little visitation here and that we're never disconnected. I think the I remember too, there was a really powerful synchronicity that I experienced through my mediumship where I mean it was so emotional. I feel like my it gets to the point where like my kids are involved in it where they have nothing to do with one of my reads, like they have nothing to do with that. Like, but they show me it. They say things that were a synchronicity or for example, this one was something that just sticks with me. I can never leave this one. And it's a reading that I did for a mother, and she lost her daughter. She was young, and she kept on telling me twinkle toes. And she had these sparkly shoes on, and she's like dressed up and was like girly and fun. And so I told the mother, she keeps saying twinkle toes. She keeps talking about these sparkly shoes, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I when I went to cremate her, she had these, I put her in this beautiful outfit and the shoes that are at the place to be picked up, but I haven't had the courage to go get them yet." And I was like, "Well, she wants you to go get them. They're ready and she wants you to take those." And so that that same day later on, my daughter, when I picked her up, she goes, "We got an elf on the shelf." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And she goes, "And guess what the name is?" And I was like, "What'd you name him or her?" And she said, "It's Twinkle Toes." And I was like, my mother and I looked at each other because my mother knew she was here with me. And I was like, "That is wild." I kid you not, this was a couple years ago. And over Christmas time, because it seems to be a Christmas thing, over Christmas time, I sat down near this girl at this lawn and movie lawn show for kids. It was with my kids. And I looked and I thought of the girl. I was thinking of that girl. I actually connected with her mother again. She came to me within that week. I sat down at this lawn in the movie, and there was a girl beside me with twinkly, sparkly shoes. And I was like, oh my, I have chills. I'm like, this is like so many synchronicities in that I just, so when you do mediumship or when you do connect with obviously other people, they start pinging you with everything. It's like this connection, grid of just synchronicities. They'll use your children, your friends, your family, people, random strangers, like, and it just trickles over so many of us that it's just really profound. And I really truly find so much healing in synchronicities. And I'm sure most of you that are listening as well do, because it gives us that sense again of grounding, sense of heart center, sense of that connection and just that knowing and that feeling of like not being dissociated from, our loved ones or disconnected from our loved ones.
For sure. And I think a lot of people, they don't really know what to look for. So, like for me, I know Spirit uses some big, pretty overarching ones that they use for everyone. So, like cardinal feathers, finding coins on the ground, white feathers, or like I've been seeing a lot of white feathers lately, which have been really nice. Those are usually from more like your spirit guides, I feel like, whereas like the cardinal feathers are usually like loved ones that have passed over, dragonflies, ladybugs, like these little things that people don't necessarily realize are messages from spirit. And I know a lot of people get angel numbers. Like I see angel numbers all day, every 5 minutes out the wazoo. And I think a lot of people see those and they're like, well, what does it mean? And a lot of times you have to stop and be like, okay, what was I thinking at that moment that I saw it? And then you go and look up that number. Like I have them all pretty much memorized at this point because I literally see them nonstop all day. And so that's another good way that spirit likes to connect with you, talk to you, send very specific messages to you. And with angel numbers, like it's not always just like, 111, 222. Like I'll see like 2121 over, over, over for several times throughout the day. I'm like, okay, obviously 2121 is a message. So I'll go and look up that very specific message and see what it means.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think like going back to what you said, not a lot of people know what to ask for. So my recommendation or what I experience is when you are in a state of feeling lack of or stuck or need confirmation or feeling like I just need to connect, those are those moments usually of what I reach out. And of course, daily is practice too, is just gratitude and connecting with them, is just thanking them. But in moments like that, it's just simply asking in a quick, brief little connection where you can rest your body, rest your mind, and just really connect and just settle in and just ask a simple thing of show me confirmation on etc., whatever question. Like, for example, for me, I was kind of going through a darker stage. So I was like, okay, I know my shift, everything's going around and shifting. So I'm going to ask my spirit team, show me am I on the right path? Is this where I need to be? And simple as that. And all of a sudden, I started seeing um, confirmation. For example, my path was like, hey, am I on the right? I mean, my question was, hey, am I on the right path? And when I say that, it was like mediumship. Is that where I need to direct my attention to? Am I still going towards mediumship for loved ones and people? Is that where my soul is this year? Like, is that what I need to my mission? And so I asked those questions, and then literally, probably within a couple hours, I saw a car decal that said, in loving memory, John Edwards. And I started laughing because if most of you don't know, but John Edwards is a medium, but it wasn't necessarily him. It was just John Edwards and it had a rose at the end that it was someone else. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay. And so it takes just that. And then also too, the same literally back to back, there was a have faith in God license plate. Like stuff like that. I mean, I believe in 100% those synchronicities and those connections. So you have to be open to receive. It's not like you're sitting there looking, but you can ask, and it may take an hour, it may take a week, but ask your guides in a way of letting it go, meaning come into that space of what do I need to, which way should I go? Show me a sign. Is this the right sign? What do I need to unblock in my chakras? What am I holding on to? Show me a sign if it's am I holding on to too much control? Show me I don't know, blue jay, whatever. Am I holding on to resentment or anything that's low? Is there anything that I need to clear extra? Whatever your question is, be very specific and then ask for the sign. Now, I used to ask for the sign, show me a feather, show me this, or whatever came naturally. Now I don't. So I wouldn't recommend that for someone that doesn't practice it daily, but like now I don't ask for the sign. I just say, what is this, for example, am I on the right path? And then they show me the sign, right? Like whatever that sign is, you will know. And that's what I always say to my guides. You will show me what I need to see. Like I know that you're going to show me exactly what it is. And when I see it, I'm going to know it. So that's another way you could do it if you feel like you don't know what to come up with. That does let go of the control and the restriction on what it may be. And then that lets go of the expectation and that logic. But it depends on what fits best for you. Try either way.
For sure. I know when I ask for specific signs, I kind of go on the mission of trying to see those signs, which is a big problem. I always do that. And they're like, Ashley, stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. Stop looking for it. And it's not until, because I will fixate on,
Mhm.
certain signs, especially in the beginning when I was first really starting the process of learning how to do that. I would get so fixated and they wouldn't show up. And then as soon as I stopped thinking about it, as soon as it left my mind, boom, there it is.
Exactly. When you least expect it, it will show up. Another way to amplify your connection with your guides is through crystals for sure, crystal grids. That's something that really, when I started my practice and started connecting deeper, crystal grids really helped me. Now, this is just a recommendation. Of course, everyone has their own path, everyone has their own way of connecting. You don't need all of that stuff. But for me, crystals were really connecting deeper and amplifying my intuition. So when it amplified my intuition, then it amplified my connection. So that's something that's really helpful if you're just starting out or if you're like, I'm stuck and stagnant, I don't know which way to go. I think crystal grids, looking into that or finding what resonates with crystals and using those in order to amplify your intuition to open your synchronicities. Um, but yeah, you don't have to be a psychic, you don't have to be a medium, you don't have to be this, shaman. Anyone can connect with signs. Everybody can connect with signs and synchronicities, messages from spirit. Um, because that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people get confused and think that, oh, what is the sign I need to see when they ask during a read? And it's like, well, that's so customized to you. I could tell you what they might show you or send you, but it's like you have to feel that, you have to really feel like that whole experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a sensation that there's just a knowing that kind of washes over you. And another thing that I do, I'm very clairaudient. Like I usually receive messages from like voices, and people are like, when you say like you hear voices, it's almost never like a random voice. Like it's usually your own voice that you hear in your head, but I know it's not me because I will literally have arguments with it. Like I'll be like, "Oh, I don't want to do this." And then I'll have a voice that comes like, "No, you need to do this." And I'll literally be like, "But I don't want to do that." And it's like my ego fighting your higher self or your guides or whoever's trying to connect with you. Like it's very distinctly not me because and another way it's not you is that voice will bring you peace. It'll bring you calm. It'll bring you clarity. Whereas like your ego mind, your anxiety brain, that's gonna just amp up those negative feelings. And also it's a lot of times for me, it's not something I would have thought of on my own. Like I'll think of a certain solution, but it'll be something that I never considered. And that's how I know it's not coming from me. It's coming from something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because your intuition is coming from channeling, and most people channel and connect and don't know that. I think the ego is just bigger for most people, and so that can make the other energies small.
It's hard.
So working on your ego, of course, is the first step, healing your ego and your inner wounds. Of course, on your journey is really where your awakening comes from your intuition and of course your connection with your spirit guides and your loved ones. Um, I do believe that is a huge key component in connecting and receiving.
I'll say for me, when I was really trying to, because I get bad anxiety, and for me, I've always tried to meditate in the past, and I have ADD, so sitting still and trying to be peaceful and quiet my mind is almost impossible for me. And I was like, well, I guess I just can't meditate, like because everyone speaks like, oh, lay down, get quiet, get peaceful. I'm like, I can't do that. Like my monkey brain is so like boom, 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 boom constantly. And I realized that every time I would like walk on the treadmill, I would get these just clear, constant streams of just like channeling. And I didn't realize it was that for the longest time. So I think for a lot of people who do struggle with meditation and feel like that's not just for them, like try, for me, walking is the best way for me to channel. Like if I am not walking, it is hard for me to quiet that part of my brain that is just like ruminating and fixating on things. It's when you get your body, your brain can focus on moving your body, so a separate part of your brain can be open and clear to receive messages and answers that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Everybody has their own gateway and intuition connection. Everyone works different, of course. Like for me, of course, meditation is key component because I am able to quiet, but I will say anyone that has anxiety, anyone that is overwhelmed, because there is times where like I am not able to quiet. I'm not able to, and I don't fight it. I just let it go. I say I can't do it right this moment, and that's okay. I'm going to go work out. So for me, it's when you have that anxiety, like you're doing, you work out, you walk, you're physical. So it's the physical body that needs the movement. And most of the time, people don't realize that their anxiety is just needing to be released. When you release your anxiety, you'll be able to channel clearer, you'll be able to connect. And I think for me, when I have those moments, I would just, quiet the body, or release the energy in a healing or a dance or a workout or jog or physical, just being outside, moving the energy around. And then going in a state of meditation receptive. And I do for me, my my expansion happened, and this is again not for everyone, but my expansion happened when I could meditate and sit in that state and just did a rift off into a journey of somewhere. And I feel like for me, when I drift off and I journey and go somewhere, or I practice my mind receptive like control, where I do the mediumship practices in my third eye, I do feel this like instant clear channel, instant trust. When I lose that, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to go to the physical. I got to move my body. I got to go work out. I can't sit stagnant. I got to keep going. So, it all depends on what works and fits for you, but I would definitely recommend never resisting and never forcing and being like, no, I need to meditate or I'm doing it wrong. No, you let it go and you keep bringing that thought in, and guess what? You just move it away if you're trying. But if you can't do that, you just need to stop. Like you don't want to force because then frustration, anxiety, all the other components come in. One thing that I want to share that my daughter told me yesterday, and it was so ironic talking about synchronicities. I said the day before, I said, I feel like I was talking to Spirit, just like in my mind, like I feel like I need to be teaching my kids a little more on like I need to be doing a little more in energy clearings for them. Like I was like, I need to be practicing a little more um, energy safe space clearings for them. I don't know what made me think that. I just did that. And I do often, but I felt like I needed a little more. And the next day, my daughter was like, she said, I had a thought in my head that wouldn't go away at bedtime. And she goes, and you know what I did about it is every time it came in, I just took it and I threw it so far out, as far as I could throw it. And every time it come back, I would just throw it again. And I was like, I've never taught her that, first of all.
I
And
love
I was
that.
like, yeah. And I was like, so thank you, Spirit. Like in that moment, I'm thinking, listening to her, but I'm also like, that's incredible. Thank you, Spirit. Thanking Spirit is number one key for sure. But like seeing that right in that moment of a sign, that's confirmation. I don't need to be doing anything more, is what my spirit was guides were saying. I am open, my children are open, everyone around us that we're trying to help is open. That's enough, right? And I think sometimes we have to remember too, we don't need to be doing more. Sometimes we can be just being. And so that was my reminder of just being.
Sure. I know when I've tried to receive messages and, get answers like very like give it to me now because I'm an Aries. I'm extremely impatient. What I want it right now. And I do have very good foresight. So I can see what's likely to happen. And I'm like, okay, well, it's going to happen. So just make it happen like right now. Like I don't want to wait for it. And so it's really learning patience, which is like the hardest virtue for me that has been pounded into me for like the last 2 years. But it's really surrendering and being patient and being quiet and just being open to receiving whatever you receive. Like usually it's your first instinct, your first thought that is the message, and learning not to doubt that. You know, that goes into the whole intuition thing. Like if you ask for something and you hear an answer, take that first answer, you know, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense right away, take that answer, lean into it, wait for more confirmation if you need to.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, I'm clairaudient mostly, so I also get a lot of messages through songs. Music has always been a huge thing in my life. Like I am very deeply connected to music. And I remember just like last week, I was really anxious about something, and I just hit shuffle on all my songs. And the first song that came on was Vienna by, who is it? Billy Joel, I want to say maybe. It's the song Vienna. And the first line is like, slow down, you crazy child.
I
And
know
so
you.
guides are really funny too. People don't realize they like to make jokes at you. Like my guides like to kind of like poke at me, like, slow down, like chill out, like just
Yeah,
relax.
I
Like they
love
like
that. They can definitely be funny for sure.
one of my love languages is like if I don't roast you a little, like I don't love you. Like I like little like poking fun at my loved ones.
Well,
So
people
they
don't,
poke fun at me.
yeah,
And
and people, sorry, what was that?
I think it's hilarious when they poke fun at me. Like it really gets me to listen because I'm like, okay.
Absolutely, because people don't realize too how funny our loved ones are in spirit.
For
Like,
sure.
I don't, I mean, I feel like maybe that's just me as a medium and them just attracting to me, but I feel like almost all the connections that I do lately are funny. Like, they're not so serious, you know? And I don't know, there's waves too where spirit will align you with certain things that are like compatible with what you're experiencing, and then it'll just happen again. So maybe it's just this cluster that I'm getting right now, but it just seems like these funny synchronicities or funny things going on, and I just see it and I laugh and I'm just like, oh yeah. So when I am always just laughing randomly, people are like, oh, must be a synchronicity, or my friends are like, oh, what's happened now?
And
And
the
I'm like,
thing
it's just me.
the laughter, it raises your vibration, which allows you to receive more easily. Because I know when I was unable to connect with my grandmother, it's because I was in such a low frequency of grief, of just like anger of her passing. And when I finally like allowed myself to grieve, when I finally got past those feelings and kind of relaxed, that's when she finally started really connecting for me. And it wasn't that she wasn't, you know, I'm sure she was trying to reach out the whole time. I just was not able to see it or receive it, or I expected it to look a certain way, or I'd be like, ma'am, I'll come and manifest right in front of me and talk to me, which they
Yeah.
usually don't. They usually don't do that. You know, it's very much, you know, you see them in your mind's eye, not in your physical eyes.
Mhm. Real quick too, I wanted to talk about deja vu, and this is something that has happened a lot in my life as a child, and my daughter experiences this too. And I share a lot, just so you all know, that the listeners and Ashley, of course, you know, but I share a lot about what my daughter experiences because she is a star seed, and because I feel like people, it's okay, like other people that are experiencing it too with their children. I think it's so important to talk about it, but I just want to make sure that it's not like, oh, here, this is what I'm experiencing with my children. This is like a collective thing. This is most likely to anyone that's listening that's a star seed has a child that is experiencing stuff. So I like to be able to tell you because then I can give you a perspective of how I respond, you know, and how it is. But so for example, I my whole life I was experiencing deja vu as a child, and I never understood it. And so we are conditioned to believe that most of the times, I don't know about you, but like deja vu was like a negative thing, or like it's like something you don't want to experience. That's what I was felt as a child.
I never had that experience. Mine was always just kind of fun.
Well, no, what I'm saying is my deja vus were beautiful, meaning my deja vu moments were beautiful. But what we were believed what deja vu was and what that meant was not actually what I was being told. It was not true. And so deja vu was never in a moment of like negative. It's never been a negative thing. But for some reason, I was raised and believed that it was not something good, which is interesting because,
That is interesting because I was raised
yeah.
like in the church and I would be like, oh, this already happened, or I remember this. My mom would be like, oh, yeah, I get those all the time.
Yeah, no, it was like a almost like a taboo thing where it was like, what are you talking about? No, that's not real, or that's not a good feeling. You shouldn't feel like you've been here before, or what that happened. It doesn't make sense. Who are you? Made me feel odd. So I just never really talked about it. But I will say you will never experience deja vu in a negative situation. Like if you look back at all of your deja vus, there are always moments of like, oh wow, that's such a cool experience, or oh, I feel so. It's like this alignment feeling of like you are on the right path, you are exactly where you need to be. And I find it interesting because there was visions of my life when I was a teen and I would be like, I feel I've been here before. I don't know where, I don't know why, and I'll never forget the first time I told people I was probably 15 and I was like the weirdest person in the world. Like, what are you talking about? You've never been here. And I was like, but I feel like I've been here, but I left my body for a moment. Like, I don't know, because it's a higher consciousness feeling too. It feels like this wave of like snapping in and out of the different consciousness, almost like in or out quick. And so that was really weird for me, a vulnerable moment of my life to express that and to not realize what it was. And I don't think I ever mentioned it to my mother because I was probably afraid of just because of how many times I've experienced it, that with like a negative feeling feedback, I guess you would say it. Um, but I love experiencing deja vu. And my daughter experiences it often. And she's like, I get this vision. I just saw you doing this. Like, you did this already. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I haven't, but we're aligned. Like, cool.
I
I
used to
have
get
in another dimension.
Yeah, I used to get it a lot as a kid. I don't get it too much anymore as an adult, but I do love it. But I usually get like, I think it's called déjà reveille. It's where I dream of something and then I live it in the future. So like as a child, I would dream of just like a normal school day. And then a week later, I would have that exact same school day, like to the T. I was like, I did this in my dream like a week ago. So that's what
Oh,
I
I
experienced.
see what you're saying. So not necessarily a premonition. It's a you experienced it and then it happened.
It was very
Wow.
interesting. I would get that a
That
lot.
is so interesting. So that now that I'm thinking of it, I'm like, I don't think I've ever dreamed that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think it's called déjà reveille. And it's where you dream of something and then very shortly after you have that same experience in real
So
life.
I've had dreams where things are happening at that moment, if that makes sense. So, like, for example, I was having a dream and I woke up frantic because it was 3 in the morning and I had a dream my mother was in a car accident and she was stuck in a car and couldn't get out and it caught on fire. And my grandmother that just passed recently, like this was 20 years ago, was in the back seat and woke up frantic. What happened? And I used to have dreams all the time that things happen. So I didn't like it if it was bad. That was terrifying. So I remember going to my phone and reaching my phone and I was like, okay, everything's fine. Go back to bed 3 hours later, wake up at 6 or so, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my phone's blew up. Well, my mother was locked in a car, crashed into a tree, caught on fire. My grandmother clearly was there saving her because some man came out of his house and saw and got her out because she could not get out. She literally broke her arm, broke her hip, broke her ankle, everything trying to get out. And so that was terrifying. That's when I was like, I don't like this. I don't want this. But it was moments of in that moment. For example, if someone died, it was that night. They would happen in the moment. I don't know how to describe it. So that's interesting. I've never heard of the deja vu. What is it called?
Déjà reveille? Reveille? I
Yeah.
think
So that is interesting because it was always in the moment
yours,
that I
that was
was.
more of a premonition, is what I would call that. Mine wasn't, nothing special happened. It was just I lived a day in my dream, and then a week later, I lived that same day in real life.
But I always thought, and that's wild. I love that. I always thought a premonition was like you dream it and then it happens. I wasn't actually dreaming it and it happened. It was dreaming while it was happening.
So I feel like
So
that's
that
more premonition than
is
date.
it. Okay. Because I
That's
feel
I
okay.
would categorize that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And I think that that was probably that moment of like, what in the world is happening? So yeah, I didn't understand it. And of course, when I told people that, they were like, you're so weird. Like you are so strange. And what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I just was like, okay. Not telling anyone anymore.
Or like I used to say a lot of stuff to my mom and like, you know, we were raised in the church, but I feel like my mom and my grandmother were both very in tune, but you just didn't really talk about it too much. My mom
Mhm.
would definitely have a lot of premonition dreams. Like when I was pregnant, she's like, "Oh, I had a dream you had a little girl with a bunch of hair." And then, I got a sonogram and she was a little girl and you could see all her little hair in the sonogram. So it's like we've always like kind of acknowledge that there's like this thing, but never really talk about it. And like my mom sometimes would be like, "Oh, I had a dream that this happened. Don't go out here." Or like she's like, "Don't go out of the house. Like you need to stay home today." And I'll be like, "What are you talking about?" And it's things like that that, I feel like for generations, like there's definitely a lineage of just like especially with feminines. I feel like we are just more in tune, and that's not meaning like females. Like there's men who are much more in their feminine, who are seers, who are more in tune with those frequencies. And I feel like that's kind of like a line that we see pass through that a lot of times isn't spoken on. Like I know you have that experience as well with the females in your family. And then it's like our generation is like acknowledging these gifts, stepping into these gifts, really embracing them and bringing them forward, which is only going to, I don't know, feel like raises the frequency of the earth and the vibrations and bring a lot of healing that we clearly really, really, really need.
Absolutely, I completely agree because we are that generation of breaking and a collective like awakening for sure. Because I will say, the feminine energy in my side for sure too. But like when we heal in our lifetime, I see what I've seen is my mother. So it's just like your mother, where you would speak, but not necessarily dive deep because I don't think they actually knew. But my mother before, I mean, my grandmother before, so my grandmother was very intuitive and medium and psychic, but didn't talk about it. And so then my mother started, and she knew, she briefly talked about it. And then now that I have exposed the truth and I don't hide it, our generation are not hiding it. It's actually opened my mother to, she is 100% like opened her abilities. I've taken her to places to clear her energy or learn or to do readings and to connect. And she's fascinated. We grew up in Salem, so she's always been holding herbs and spices, and she's all knew which one would give you abundance, give you this, give you that. And so I wasn't into that, but she was. And so I was more into the candles and stuff like that, of like practicing rituals with candles, but she was, and crystals, but she was like this, but she was always resistant, right? Because that generation. And so now I see it so much more open and exposed. So our transition of connecting, our expansion of being open and receiving and not hiding is helping, even though it's helping our generation of our parents. I don't know how your mother looks at it now, but my father too. My father is like blown away. He never knew these things about me. He loves it. And
Wow.
I'm very blessed and thankful because I did not know how they were going to receive that. They knew that I had these things or a certain, but they didn't know to the extent when I exposed everything, I think. I didn't even know the extent. So I think the most important thing, if anyone is listening and they're like dabbing into that world, it's like the most important thing is making sure open yourself up to that vulnerability and to be that light in that channel, because we are stepping into more of that awareness. And that's why our spirit team is becoming so much closer and more awakening us and kind of snapping us up into that reality of like a higher perspective.
For sure. And like, I feel like, there's this thing called the witch wound where I think a lot of people, feminines experience where, because I know in a past life, like, I have definitely been in positions of having powers and like, just being a shaman or whatever and being punished for it or being ostracized for it. And I think a lot of us carry that and that fear inside of us. And I feel like, what are you the Scorpio Pluto generation?
Sagittarius, I'm not sure what you mean.
So the Pluto and Scorpio generation, that's millennials, is what that
I'm
is.
I'm 41, so I don't know.
Yeah, so you're Gen X, I think, is what you considered. So Gen X is kind of the ones that stood up, I guess, against the boomers, but they kind of detached from that kind of energy. It was more like we're just not going to be involved with that. Whereas the Pluto and Scorpio, the millennials, we're really like the generational curse breakers, a lot of us. We are the ones that are like, because Scorpio is very much with like taboo, death, reverse, sex, all these different things. And when it's in Pluto, Pluto is the same exact kind of energy. So it's really digging up all the taboos in life and bringing them to the forefront and acknowledging them and
Well, that
accepting them.
sounds like me, even though I'm not
I think
that.
you're very close to like probably the dividing line between those two energies. So I feel like, and you're just more naturally in tune. So this isn't like ground, like not every
Yeah.
person is millennials into this kind of stuff for sure. But it's
Yeah, I
like,
think it's awakening for the collective, and I think it's just for universal for anyone. Like, I mean, you could be 80, you could be 20, you could be five, you could be, I mean, I understand astrology. I'm not saying you're not accurate. I'm just saying when I look at it in a perspective, I'm like, I see like my father, he's 70. Like, I'm like, I see people, my mother, and just in general, like opening those wounds and even dabbing into it at like 40, at later on in their life. And it's interesting you're talking about this because yesterday I thought, oh, wow, like I was really emotional with the fact that I waited. I kept on saying to myself, why am I saying that? I didn't wait. This is when I was supposed to meant to be. Like, I wasted all those years. No, I didn't. We don't waste. I'm talking for me and my perspective, but some people can look at it as like, oh, wow, I didn't take action soon enough. And it's like the right time is now, and there's no right, wrong. It's now. It's when you are aware of it and that's all that matters. Um, but yeah, so
I
before
guess
we
what I'm
close, go
saying
ahead.
more is like, it's not so much that we are the ones that waking, it's kind of like that progression. So the 90s to like the early 2000s, I can't remember when the Pluto and Scorpio ended, but that was
Mm,
like when the world collectively was waking up and
mm,
really diving. Like you remember, like, back in the 80s and 90s, there was like the satanic panic and all that, and people were getting more into like darker things. Like you had like the craft and like all this different stuff, and witches were really big. And so it's kind of you see those generational changes and shifts. And now we have Pluto and Aquarius, which is about innovation and bringing things like really to the forefront, like not pushing things down, really acknowledging what's wrong with the world and actively making changes for it, really pushing things forward collectively, which is like Aquarius energy. It's very humanitarian, very like doing things for the people, for the collective good.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Before we close, what would you say to the listeners as far as like some tips on how you practice? Because I did mention how I practice with connecting. What would you say that works for you? Because I like to give two different perspectives for sure.
For me, I have always been a bath girl. I take a lot of baths. Water is highly conductive for energies, and it also makes me sit still, which is hard for me. So I like to take a nice hot bath. I get really relaxed. I find a meditation on YouTube or whatever, and I try to just really tap into that and really just sink into that feeling. And then walking for me is just the best thing I've ever done for myself to be able to channel. Like I will be in a rut unless I go walking because I'm not moving my body. I'm not getting that energy out.
Uh,
And I think for me also, it's just really, really being patient and being very aware and being very accepting of any little sign I get. Because I always wanted like the biggest sign possible. You want the billboard kind of sign. But it's really like the small little synchronicities that can build up into that bigger, like, okay, I see it. I understand it now.
And then what I was going to say is, who do you connect with? Who's your go-to? Because we all have cosmic team, right? And that's one thing we didn't touch on. So before we go, let's do that because like I know we're a little over time, but the time or the cosmic team is something for me that I have a go-to where I have three guides. I'm mainly seeing my one, and she's always on the left of me, always more closer here. My higher self is here. My ancestors appear, my like energy here. So that's how I see it now, depending on what I'm channeling and what I'm asking for. It's always my left, my guide on my left. That's going to be universal, like my day. Like, what do I like? Question, right? But if I need some like emotionally healing, I'm going to my ancestor that in the highest form or my ascended master, or whoever is like my crone, my deep knowing. And then my higher self is always just up there if I need to be centered. I'm going to her. So what would you say that yours your go-to for like a, hey, show me a sign?
I would say I go to my mama a lot. In the past, it was actually my grandfather, I realized, who has been heavily around me. I just didn't realize it was him for the longest time. But I usually go to my mama. I talk to Archangel Michael a lot. Like he is one of my big go-tos because he's just always been a very big presence in my life. And probably my higher self. I don't know. I don't really like sense different things. It's kind of
Okay.
just like a collective. I don't know. I don't feel like it's different people. It's just kind of like they all agree in
Yeah.
unison and talk to me and tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted your perspective because I know we have two different ones, and that's great. For me, I definitely have a certain one and a certain thing. And so, like, even for the galactic beings, like if I need to receive something from my home base, which is from my past lives and my galactic Arcturians, I will connect with that energy, but it depends on what I need. It's not every single time. So, going deeper into that, it's just kind of giving you a perspective of how to connect, right? You can start small by just connecting with your higher self or connecting to the clear channel and the highest of your soul originated from. We want to make sure that we're calling in the energies in the highest of good for our soul in this lifetime. When we are connecting, that's one thing that I just wanted to reiterate. And always asking for the protection because we definitely want to make sure that we're calling in the right energy. And if using our body, we feel what's right and wrong by our discernment is extremely important.
Yeah, and for me, I always, I ask Archangel Michael to come in clear, protect the space first. And then I always say, I ask for my highest and wisest angels, ancestors, guides, guardians, galactic team, higher self. I do the whole spiel every time. Because, you can have like lower vibrational, not necessarily bad energies, but just like lower vibrational energies that aren't necessarily aware of what's the best for you. Like, especially with ancestors, some of your ancestors can still have like that sense of anxiety and fear, and they can kind of feed that into you. And so you want to make sure you're speaking to ones that are very clear, that are very higher up in their thinking.
So another thing too, yeah. So let me just real quick share you my experience on that so we know what we're talking about as far as ancestors go and send like that higher perspective. So I by experience, while I started healing, opened, expanded, and working on my soul and my past lives, etc., that's when I was shown in my highest form my ancestors. I had two come, one at a different time, one each at a different time. So when I say my ancestors, those are my ascended masters that were in lifetimes with my soul. Like I was shown that, I knew that, I felt that during healings in my life that came forward. So these are not someone that I just called in just because today I needed you. It's like you will evolve the more you open your channel in the highest of good for your soul. So don't feel like this is just for the listeners is like, don't feel you need to call in all of these things. It also is very important to make sure that you're aligning with the ones that are coming forward. So for me, start small. If you're starting out, start small with just your angels or a loved one that you connect with, right? And then when your soul starts ascending and you're in this journey of awakening, you will start connecting deeper with your ancient wisdom, which is your ascended masters and the highest of good for your soul's origin. And anything that's there to assist you, right? And then you can go from there with whoever, maybe a galactic, right? That just depends. Like this isn't something that I just decided this is something that actually came forward to me that was during times of my life. So that's one thing that I wanted to reiterate and just clarify because that's huge, huge for someone that is tapping into this spiritual realm of your guides.
Sure. I would definitely start with the angels first. I know I pretty much solely only spoke to like Archangel Michael for a very long time to really get connected with that energy and kind of understand what that feels like in my body. Like when I connect to other angels, I don't get that emotional, but every time I connect with Michael, like it is so emotional for me because his
Mm.
energy is just so overwhelming and
Well,
protect loving for me.
yeah, and another thing too is absolutely archangels are amazing to work with 100%. I feel though when I say angels, I guess I was reiterating it wrong, but like my spirit guide, my main incarnation guide, right? That would be, I
Thinking more like
consider it
your
an angel, but it's more of my guardian angel, my angel guardian angel that's been with me since birth, that's going to be with me since I take my last breath on this planet. So that is someone you can work with definitely without any question, right? Like that is your guardian angel guide that is incarnated with you in this lifetime. There's no contract breaking that. There's no other, there's nothing low about that. So that's something to be safer about, right? So if you're not sure and you're like, oh, there's so much going on, I don't know how much protection and what I don't want to open that portal. And because it is discernment and it is important to use your intuition. And the best thing you can do to connect with your guides on a daily basis is to call in your main one, right? Like your guardian angel you were incarnated with is probably my go-to if I was to start out when I did. Um, yeah.
For sure, I agree.
So I hope that we covered everything. If you have anything else before we close, do you have anything else you want to share before we end this?
I don't think so. I'm sure I'll think of something after we're
Of
done.
course, of course. But thanks again for listening. And we will meet you back, maybe doing some things on intuition development, maybe talking about how our intuition opened and how we acknowledged it, maybe diving into our clairs and opening that.
Yeah, I think that would be a great plan.
All right.
Thank you
Well, have a
guys.
blessed day.